Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we have to talk about liquidations because they are happening in the car industry big time, and this is going to impact things a massive amount. Before we get into the video though, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And then if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Let's get into it. So I feel like liquidation is a pretty loaded word. Whenever you hear the word liquidation, you think, well, someone's cheap selling stuff because they are going out of business. And well, that's typically true. And that's kind of what we're seeing in the car industry. Now, everyone already knows about the Carvana situation. That's like the biggest player in this whole liquidation situation. But there are a lot of other smaller players, a lot of small independent dealerships, some of them even new car dealers, smaller family-owned businesses. They're really struggling right now. And so they're actually starting to liquidate a lot of their inventory just so they can get cash, even though by liquidating their inventory, they are going to lose a massive amount of money. And the thing that is really interesting is a lot of them are actually failing at even doing this. And this has major implications for the car market. Now let's talk about what this practically looks like in the real world, because when you, again, think liquidation, say you think that there's probably just going to be like a big banner across the business saying, hey, we're liquidating our inventory. Dealers aren't doing that. They're not going to be doing that anytime soon. Instead, what they're doing is they are posting these cars online like normal as retail pieces, but then they're also running these cars at auction on a consistent basis trying to sell them. And then they're also posting these cars on wholesale sites trying to sell them. Now, if you're a dealer with a car that you believe you can sell to a retail customer for a decent amount of money, you're not going to do those two items. Like, this is something that I experienced firsthand when I worked in the car business. If we had cars that we knew that we could sell, even if it was going to take some time, we wouldn't post them on those sites and we wouldn't send them to auction. Like, it didn't make any sense. And even cars that we thought that, the dealership might lose a little bit of money on, we typically kept, because there was no sense in doing that, because that was a surefire way of losing a lot of money. Because even if you lose a little bit of money with a retail customer, you can usually pick it up in other areas, like with warranties or with accessories on the vehicle. Whereas if you wholesale a car at auction or just, on a wholesale site, like, that's it. You don't, like, another dealership's not going to pay for your crappy warranties, right? And so the only reason why a dealer or a large dealer group is going to do this is because they're getting desperate, because they need cash, because they have already lost a massive amount of money and they realize they're going to lose even more money, and they've got to liquidate. And so that's what this practically looks like. And so again, you're not going to be able to go to a dealership. You're not going to see some big liquidation sign. Instead, you would have to have access to these auctions to be able to actually see what's happening. And that's what I'm seeing what's happening. And the other part that's really interesting to the story is these cars aren't selling. Right now, on average at auction, only about like 50% on the high side, but usually it's even under 50% of cars are actually selling. And so what that means is these dealers are throwing these cars at these wholesale websites and at these auctions, and nobody's picking them up. Like, nobody is interested. And the thing that I think is so interesting about this situation is some of these vehicles are listed for under the average auction transaction price, and they still aren't selling. So there's a value called the MMR value, which is basically what that car is roughly worth because of what it's sold for at auction recently. And dealers will literally price their cars at auction below that value because they think that they'll be able to just get rid of it quickly, still not selling. That's the situation that we're in currently. And this is leading to some pretty interesting outcomes because there's a lot more fraud happening at auctions and just in the car market in general. You have some stuff that, well, is straight out of Matilda, where dealers are literally doing odometer rollbacks on vehicles if they can figure something out with a computer in a car or just something to make it so that the car shows lower mileage so that they can somehow sell it for more money. Dealers are basically listing that a car has options that in reality it doesn't actually have, and they're just doing all sorts of weird tricks and everything to sell these cars, or at least sell them for more money or something so they can get rid of them. And so it's only increasing as time goes on. And so it's definitely leading to an interesting situation where, with all of this extra fraud and with the declines that are happening in the used car market, it's pushing more and more dealers to not want to purchase any cars from auction. And so it's kind of like pushing us into this positive feedback loop where less cars are selling at auction because the car market's declining. And because the car market's declining, then people are doing fraudulent things. And then that pushes even less people to purchase from auction because they're like, oh, well, that last car that I purchased from auction had an odometer rollback discrepancy and it had, something in the whatever, right? There could be a number of things that were falsified on the car and they got burned on it. And they're like, yep, I don't want anything to have to do with that anymore. I'm just going to completely take a step back. And unless I can see the car in person as like a trade-in, I don't want anything to have to do with it. So now that leads me into talking about what this means for the car market moving forward. First off, I actually potentially see more regulation coming into place with these auto auctions. Now, I don't necessarily think it's going to come from the government. I think it's actually going to come from the auctions themselves. Because what you have to remember is that auctions make money when they sell cars. If they stop selling cars, well, they stop making money. And so if they continue to get all these complaints of this fraud happening at their auctions, then, well, they're going to have to put more regulation in place to prevent that so that they can bring back the dealers so they can continue to sell cars. So I do see that, potentially changing within the industry. Now, the next thing that is surely going to continue to happen is, well, car values are going to continue to go down because retail customers aren't biting and wholesale customers are no longer biting. I mean, we literally live in a market where someone can post a car that is perfectly fine, right? Nothing fishy about it, for under wholesale value at an auction and nobody will pick it up. I mean, we literally were just in a market last year where dealers were paying not only above wholesale value at auction, but they were even paying above retail value at auction for cars. And now it's a complete 180, right? And so this is only going to put more downward pressure on the used car market. This is going to push used car prices down until this reaches some equilibrium where people feel like it's safe to buy from auctions again, and until inventories get rebalanced. That's something that's very important that, again, I've talked over the course of several videos. Dealers still need to rebalance their inventories, and some dealers are in better places than others. I've talked to several dealers about this whole rebalance situation, and some of them said that they started reacting 3, 4, 5 months ago because they saw the writing on the wall, and so they're in a situation where only a few of their cars are in a bad place where they're selling them at, a decent loss. Like one dealer, for example, has an inventory right now where everything is positive in terms of what they're selling it for versus what they own it for, except like 2 cars. And those 2 cars, they're taking like $6,000 losses on them each, and that's pretty much it. Like it's not a bad situation considering there are dealers out there that have like their entire inventory underwater by thousands of dollars. And so it is going to be a case-by-case basis, but overall, until that whole inventory rebalance situation happens, what you're going to see as a customer is high retail prices, low trade-in values, and what then I'm going to see on the backside of things is that those wholesale values are going to continue to decline. So with all this information, what can you do as a consumer? Well, first off, if you go and look at a used car right now, definitely get it inspected. I mean, that's something that you should always do no matter what's happening in the market. But because of all of the fraudulent activity that we're seeing right now, definitely get that used car inspected so you know that, well, it is what they are describing it as, and it doesn't have anything crazy like odometer rollback or, just some sort of fishy business about it. And also find out where that car came from, because if that car was purchased from auction by the dealer, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad car. But the chances of it being a bad car are a lot higher than if it was a car that was traded in by one of the customers of that dealership. And so I would just do a little bit more digging when it comes to used cars if you're going to purchase a used car. But my advice right now is to still not purchase a used car. I understand that there are some people that are in a situation where you have to purchase a car. And so, again, be as cautious as you can and take your time. But if you don't have to purchase a car, don't purchase a car. Everything that we're seeing right now shows that values are going to continue to decline. So that used car purchase that you make today is going to be more expensive than the used car purchase that you would make tomorrow. And so why not save yourself, again, the headache of everything that's happening today and the money, right? Why not save yourself some money and wait? I understand that interest rates are most likely going to increase a few more times next year, but well, just take the next, 3 to 6 months as things decline even more to save up more money so you don't have to, maybe pay any sort of interest on that car because you can pay cash for it, or just have a bigger down payment so you kind of, get rid of that interest rate increase a little bit because you're just, have a smaller loan overall. So hopefully that helps you guys out. Let me know what you guys think about this, recent activity in the car world, because it's pretty crazy. Like, things just keep getting shadier and crazier, and well, yeah, it's turning into a movie at this point. So it'll be interesting to see what happens at the end. I'll see you guys.